Why, hello and welcome back to Phoenix Racing Club. We are trying to set everything up. Welcome to the start of a new season where we have no idea what we're currently doing, but hopefully we're doing it well. So, don't expect much from everybody involved in the situation today. We are all rusty, we're all not sure what we're doing, but we are at Highlands Motorsport Park in, I believe, New Zealand, one of those Eastern Island countries, where a bunch of DTM cars from Phoenix World Championship are about to take on the preseason test. The one and only preseason test our drivers will have to be able to test their vehicles, test their skills, and prepare for the 10-race season that starts just in a few weeks' time. Have about 6 more minutes to qualify. We will have the full weekend for you today. That means the first Alright, that means we will have 2 races of a different lengths because of the rule change in effect this season. We will have a spring and feature race format for this season. The first race is gonna take 20 minutes, during which there is no mandatory stop. And during the second race we will have 40 minutes with 1 mandatory stop for tires. There will be no refueling allowed in this series, as Jonah is quite a bit slow in the middle of a track. That's 6th time in sector where his car is stranded right now. He does not have a time on the board, I believe, so he has to get going sooner rather than later. We'll see if there is an issue or he's just taking it slow and steady. Meanwhile, McLaren team sends 131.505, which is unsurprisingly the first time on the timing board. His teammate Fodenberg is 3/10 behind across the start-finish line right now. He is in second. The team that absolutely dominated the championship last year looks like they're dominating yet again with Gunses in 3rd place. Gunses changed teams in between seasons. He is now representing the Phoenix Racing Team Gold in this special livery. We'll see how he performs this time around with the new team, more teammates, and I would believe more setup work involved. We do have 2 PRT teams at this point. We will dive deeper into the teams and changes once the season starts. We still have a few drivers moving here, there, and everywhere, including the driver number 4, Waffles, right here, who debuts this season. We do not have confirmation about the team or any details for this driver, but they still have a little bit of time to figure it out. Baxi is returning for 2nd season in number 68 machinery. Another new entrant in Phoenix Racing Team who moved to Phoenix Racing Team late last season, and he continues to be there, this time heading his own duo, Viperian, the Kiwi, on his local track, trying to find creative new definitions of track limits. Not working so far for the home race, and here is his teammate. Number 19, G-Man the American, will be joining Kiwi for this season. Once again, it's not the final standings just yet, so I won't be diving too deep into what's going on and who is where. A couple of drivers slow right here at the start of a new lap. completing their timed lap, I would presume, as we have just under 3 minutes left on the clock in this qualifying round. So far, McLaren team on pole, Fordenburst in second, Gunses in third. We do have 9 drivers setting timed laps, with Gemini being the only one without a proper lap. He did set a lap time of 2:47, but obviously that's not gonna cut it, so we are waiting for a good timed lap from him. Two minutes to go, and let's go on board with the reigning champion of Phoenix World Championship, McLaren Tim, in his brand new Timberwolves Racing entry number 71. Reigning champion and reigning team champion as well. With Fordenburst, they're defending their titles. They're gonna be starting defending in 2 weeks. But it's definitely interesting to see how it's shaking up before the season begins, so we kind of start theorizing of what's gonna happen. It's a different track, first time everybody is there. We have a little bit of an issue for G-Man. It looks like they are back in the garage. Let's see if it's a temporary issue, as there's 1 minute left in qualifying. Meanwhile, Fordenburst is getting some good lap times and he's now in the pits, but he is within a 10th from his teammate. So 2 Timberwolves cars really close to each other and, well, far away from the rest of the field. Another change for this season is also stricter track limits. The track limit is now defined by white lines and white lines only, so you have to keep at least 1 wheel within the track limit at all times. It does not affect the inside curbs, but the exit is now gonna be more strict overall. We do have a message about yellows. That would be for entry of SBD, and oh, there is a collision between 2 cars. That's interesting. We do have a McLaren team finishing his lap right now next to cross the line. Let's see if he sets a blistering time, as he usually does. The answer to that is no, he does not set a faster lap time. The next one to finish would be not James in his number 73 entry. Let's see if he does any sort of a fast time. Just a couple of turns left and he seems to be rather slow. I don't think he's gonna be beating his fastest time, but we're waiting for the official time, and that's a no from not James. We have a couple of cars, Waffles and Gunses, going right next to each other in a final couple of turns, looking if they're gonna make it with any sort of a good time. Waffles is gonna be the first one. He improved, but not good enough to climb a position, and Gunsis gives up on his lap. That wasn't gonna be any better, and that's our grid for race 1. McLaren team from Fordenburst, from Gunsis, Gemini in 4th with a good lap, Waffles followed by Soup, G-Man, Baxi, Mr. Grinder, and Viperian. Ran out our 11 car, Viperian and SBD not setting a lap time, so that's a 12 car grid for this race. Gonna have a bunch of race control messages due to well, obvious yellow flags before the race begins. This is fine. Alright, we do have a minute and 30 seconds before the race goes live. And we are ready to go with a couple of inconspicuous vans. Let's just move them out of the way. This is fine. Assetto Corsa, thank you for actually making us able to do that. 40 seconds before we begin, and already it looks mighty telling as far as the season predictions go, as we see the front line completely occupied by Timberwolves Racing. It's gonna be interesting to see if the entire season is gonna go like that, because we might be in for more domination from these two, but it might be a teammate battle, as we do have lights, which means we just have seconds before we go green in the first race of this preseason test. The cars are revving and we are go. 12 cars are going from the grid. Jocelyn. Oh, and we have cars sideways. That is not James being completely spun. Before even turn 1, cars are hopping the curbs. The first chicane is very, very treacherous. A little bit of a touch between Gemnite and I believe Gunses, that's for P3. As they extend the chicane and moving towards turn 2, Gemnite is gonna be on the outside of the next turn, but he manages to secure position from Gunses. Photon Burst beats McLaren Tim from the start. We have a car going wide, that's G-Man, who loses a bunch of positions and going all the way back to P11 by going wide, and now is in a battle with Not James for 11th place. Side by side they go, Not James going round the outside and already gaining that position after being spun off the grid. We do have lots of battles in mid-pack. That's Mr. Grinder, who qualified surprisingly low for his performance in the previous season. He is now in 8th place, fighting with SBD for 7th. SBD, who started from the very, very last place, already up to 7th position, battling with the German. Meanwhile, we do have a battle for 4th place. That's Waffles going around Gunses. And I hear the sounds of gravel behind. That's Soup making a little bit of a mistake, and there is a gaggle behind him. Absolute gaggle. Somebody tagged the wall, but we have way too many battles in front of us. Waffles and Gunses jostling it out for P4 into the first chicane. Behind them, there is a big battle, and Baxi is off the track. We do have side by side between SBD and Viperian for 7th place. Now it's SBD with Grinder. The outside line is not working at all, as he might be under fire from Not James, but he has the preferable line into the next chicane. He has to slow down a lot for Viperian, which means cars are all over the place. No help for Mr. Grinder, who had to slam on the brakes and lose a couple of spots. G-Man is through. Baxi is looking to make his way past, as well as they're side by side with Mr. Grinder, who's having a shambolic start to his race. 3 minutes in, and not really in control at all. I will not call that in control of his situation, that's for sure. Down to 11th place, still very, very tight battles across the field. And we do have a battle for the lead between McLaren Team and Photon Burst. While we were busy looking at the midfield, the two drivers swap positions, as McLaren Team is now in the lead with Fordon Burst in second place, and with Fordon losing a little bit of time, Gunzes with the fastest lap. There is Gemini from third place, now closing in on the duo of Timberwolves Racing, guys. There is McLaren team in his TDR livery. Is gonna be a solo team entry, I believe. But now he's looking to pass, and he does pass Fordon Burst. Something is happening. Oh, you see there is a big gash. Big gash on his left side, and the windshield is cracked. It looks like there's been a massive collision between teammates. We must have missed it, but something happened between two Timberwolves racing drivers for the lead. And now Fordon Burst is having major issues. Speaking of major issues, Gunze is now facing the wrong way. He's in the grass. Something happened. He was fighting against Waffles and Soup. I don't see any damage on his car, so it must have been something of his own making. Looks like everybody's having troubles. Gunze has just set the fastest lap of the race, and now he's all the way back in 12th and last place. Meanwhile, we do have a little bit of a battle. That's Mr. Grinder trying to run away from Baxi and G-Man right here. To have a little bit of a train forming behind not James. We are 5 minutes in, and already everything is happening. McLaren Tim posts fastest lap, and Fordon Burst is into the pit lane. No mandatory stops in this first race, but looks like he had severe damage on his car, which will require him to pit, and that pit stop will undoubtedly put him all the way down to the last place. There goes Gunzes, and that's pretty much race for him done. We'll have to inquire about it. I do have information that there was no collision between teammates, and actually Fordon Burst hit the start-finish, the wall, the pit divider at the start-finish, which caused his damage. So there is no drama before season begins, no matter how much I wanted there to be. But Fordon is now miles behind, and I think we already have somewhat of drama for race 2, as the race 2 order is gonna be set based on race 1 results. We already have a fast car in the back of a grid trying to make their way past. Looking at the back of a field right here, from 7th to 10th position, right now everybody is bunched together. That's Mr. Grinder hunting down Not James behind him, Baxi and G-Man. We do have a bit of a split between the makers, as you can see on the timing monitor. The color code, the gray, is the Mercedes. The only Mercedes team on the grid so far is the Timberwolves Racing. The blue is the BMW, and the red is the Audi. So we have 5 Audi cars, 5 BMWs, and 2 Mercedes in our preseason test. That's a good mix of 2 makers and just 1 OP team just kind of framing the grid. Meanwhile, we might have ourselves a pass here. Mr. Grinder looking for the outside, but this chicane is not a really good place for overtaking. He has to slot back, and looks like Baxim made a bit of an error, which cost him a position against G-Man. He just swept a little bit too wide here, and he drops down to 10th place. I'm gonna say Highlands is a very technical track, and looks like with no opportunity for errors, no tarmac runoffs, any mistakes are costly, and the drivers are paying for them. You know, Gunzes is back closer to the pack now. He's looking at the rear of Baxi as we speak, but he now has to pass a lot of them. We do have a race for 5th as well. SBD, Viperian and Super all together. Viperian was acting like a bit of a cork in a bottle. We haven't looked at this battle for a while, but now Soup is passed. McLaren team far away in the lead. Gemini 4 seconds behind, and the rest of the field slowly falling back. SBD with creative definitions of track limits. I'm sure Race Control will love to have a look at that. We do have a yellow flag in Sector 2, that's Waffles. What's happening? Oh, he's hit the wall and he's off the track. That's the chicane in Turn 1. That's a bad error in Turn 1, and that's our camera's not working well. It's okay, we also just started the season, and that's Waffles all the way down in P11. And that's severe damage. Oh no, that's bad damage. Look at his steering wheel. He's going straight, but his steering wheel is turned 90 degrees to the left. This car is beyond broken. And that's pretty much the end of the race for the Swede. That must have been a heavy collision. He's trying to limp his car back. Foden is definitely gonna pass him at this rate. Oh, we have a bit of a lockup there in front. Not James and Mr. Grinder fighting for what's now 6th place, and Mr. Grinder is off. Just spun on the exit. No driver aids in those cars. The Thunderfoot will cost you, and it cost Mr. Grinder, who's now fallen all the way down to P10. Meanwhile, McLaren team far in the lead. Another fastest lap, 132.244. With now a solid lead over Gemini, who is in no man's land. Personal best for SBD, who is now hunting Viperian for P4. With Waffles gone and Sup running away, Viperian is in his favorite P4, just outside the podium place. Waffles has been passed and he's now in the pits. Waffles pretty much done. We are halfway through the race. He has to fix his damage. Might as well slap a set of new tires on the baby and try to hunt down any stragglers that lose positions due to crashing. Let's see what's going on further. Not James, still being a massive cork in the bottle, but nobody is able to pass him just yet. Behind him, G-Man, Baxi and Gunsis. Gunsis has been with this pack for a while, but not able to make a pass just yet. Time is running out in this sprint race, already more than halfway through the time limit. Once again, it's time limit plus 1 lap, so it's quite a bit of extra time. But they don't have all the time in the world. That's for sure. Trying to scroll through the cameras to see what works and what doesn't. Side by side, there is Gunsis. Well, speak of a devil, there's Gunsis just breezing past Baxi, whose car was just a little bit unsettled. After the previous lap, he makes a pass and Baxi almost runs him over a little bit. But Gunsis is now through to P8. Still plenty of passing to do. He has 2 cars directly in front of him and 3 more with a little bit of a gap between them. Speaking of that gap between them, oh, there's Viperian going a little bit wide, almost collects the wall, and that helps SBD to just squeeze through the inside and into P4. The battle continues as Viperian tries to make something happen in the next turn, but he has to yield, and he's down to P5. SBD is through, and now he will be hunting the Finnish driver of Soup for that final podium place. Meanwhile, in the lead, it's very lonely for McLaren team, who's doing even more fastest laps. The latest one was 132.218. Still building his gap to Gemini, who's now 7 seconds back and still alone. We do have more racing. G-Man and Gunsis duking it out. G-Man on the inside. Gunsis tried to go around the outside, and he's still trying to go around the outside. He has the overspeed, but will he be able to break in time and wipe the position? And he does. He's through. The Latvian is done playing games, and he's now just splitting the seas and trying to get at least somewhat of a respectable position for the second race. He's now through to P7. Behind them, the race is heating up. G-Man and Baxi. Baxi going a little bit loose, trying to gain some time. Everybody and their mother setting best laps for themselves, as we are still witnessing that battle for the final podium position in the race Soup still has the gap, but this duo behind him is not ready to give up. No, SBD with a huge lockup into the gravel. He goes, he rejoins right in front. That's a bit of a sketchy rejoin there from the BMW driver. Viperian had to slow down immensely. He's now trying to go around the outside. SBD ain't yielding. And he goes wide again. His tires must have taken a beat. He now forfeits his place to the Kiwi. He's still off the track. Goes down another place to Not James. And there's another car. The 000 of Gunsis doing a little bit of a rallycross event. Trying to get past the 74 car. Still on the grass. Gunsis using his creative definitions of track limits as per usual. But he is the only one who managed to not benefit from SBD having a little bit of a trouble. So Latvian keeps his 7th position, probably fuming behind the wheel of that Audi right now. That golden with a silver stripe now Audi. Lots of cars stacked up behind Viperian, all 4th place, all the way through what seems to be 9th place. All packed together very, very close. 4 seconds from, well, 6 seconds from 3rd to 9th. Still a good pack. Yellow flag in Sector 7. I'm trying to figure out who it is. That's Waffles off the track. Again, we do have side-by-side action between Gunsis and woohoo! Somebody's going rallycross, and that's G-Man. He managed to keep his car on track, but he didn't manage to keep his position from Baxi after just swinging it ass wide. Is now down to 9th. Gunsis, meanwhile, managed to sneak past SBD and now hunting Not James for 5th. The Latvian is coming back with a vengeance. He still has about 5 minutes. And trying to look where the leader is. Leader is crossing the start-finish line as we speak, about to lap Waffles. Our Photon Burst is under investigation for DRS infraction, says Race Control. Ruh-roh, that might be the first penalty of 2020. Photon Burst still under investigation for DRS infractions. Interesting. What is going on in that Mercedes? That's 2 messages for him. Will be interesting to see what Race Control says about that. Let's go on board. There's still some damage. Let's see if DRS opens on this car again. He's now hunting down Mr. Grinder for P10. A couple of seconds between them. I don't see DRS open here. So we'll see how far it goes, but we did have a message about DRS usage, so we're gonna wait and see what that's all about. Meanwhile, here we're looking at, with Soup losing a bit of time, that's now a full-blown battle for the podium. Behind him is Viperian, Not James, Gunsis, and SBD in a 5-car pack, all jostling for the coveted 3rd place. Looking at the leader, we still have 3 laps to go. They're not gonna get 4 in, I don't think so. So everybody has this lap and 3 more. Look at this, 7 cars all on the same straight. Not James trying to get past Viperian. Viperian not having any of it just yet. If this is the battle for the midfield we're gonna have this season, it's definitely gonna be spectacular. We have a car off the track. That's G-Man who's losing positions. Oh, he is stuck on the bridge. Must have spun or crashed, and now he's having to do the turn of shame. The 17,000 point turn to get back on track. He's now all the way down in 11th place as everybody and their mother gets past them. Even for the final place, Photon and Mr. Grinder caught up to each other and might be jostling for position, but we can't afford to look at them for too much longer. There is still a huge battle, a 5-car pack going around. We do have Viperian chasing down. Oh, that's a bit of a lockup for a Kiwi. which means there's a stack up between everybody and 2 cars are off. That's not James. Off the track, Viperian lost position, but he did not complete his spin. So that's 2 cars off, and Gunther says, thank you very much, I'm gonna go through. He's now in 4th position after a mishap early on, and now he's gonna be the next contender for that podium battle. Oh, Baxi is off the track looking to pass Viperian. The battle continues, Viperian a little bit wide, but not done just yet. Meanwhile, Mr. Grinder and not James side by side. Mr. Grinder tries to go around the outside, and that car behind them is Photon Bursts looking to pounce at any opportunity. That's how much time not James lost. Still trying to race, he still keeps his position. The clock is ticking down, we're into the final minute. We have another yellow flag. That's Baxi and Viperian off the track. Viperian is slow. Oh, he might be having issues, or maybe he's trying to redress. He's up to speed, yes, so he was redressing to Baxi, and both of them lost incredible amount of time, so there was a crash between those two. Everything is happening right now. Everything is happening. We're kind of missing it on a broadcast. Now there's a battle for 3rd place, a battle for 6th place brewing. There's the 3-man fight and lots of... Well, it's now battle for 6th. Remember, Photon had to pit and he now might get into top half. The time has officially expired and McLaren team is in the final turn, so we gotta have 1 more lap after this. We're not gonna have 2 more. So... there you go, McLaren team just crossed the line and on the final lap. If drivers have anything left in the tank, they better get on it. There is a set from Photon Burst from about a mile away on Mr. Grinder. Absolutely missed the turn. Mr. Grinder lost time as well trying to dodge a flying Mercedes. Not James is the only winner of that exchange between Photon Burst and Mr. Grinder, who is still in 6th place. Grinder goes a little bit too wide. They're still side by side into the next turn, both hard on the brakes. Photon has to stay on the outside. It's not the preferable line, and they're going into the final turn. They still have 1 more lap, lads. 1 more lap to settle. It's still side by side, and Photon Burst goes round the outside and into P7. Mr. Grinder will be looking to pass wherever he can. No DRS open for him. Don't know if it's a conscious choice or he's out. We are on board with the German number 20 entry. DRS wide open and a little bit too early. You see that green DRS sign, which means the DRS open, and at the same place the car had a big wiggle, which means he opened DRS just a tad too early. Meanwhile, we go for a battle for the podium. That's Gunses chasing down Soup. McLaren team crosses the line. Gunses goes for a move on the inside. No DRS available for the Latvian, so he has to get it to do it the old-fashioned way. Waffles finish 1 lap back. McLaren team finishes, and the second car, Gemini, is gonna finish next. Oh, hello. That's Photon Burst, and he is stuck. Something happened, and he's facing the inside, so he probably has spun. And he's back down, and there is Gunses, very slow. Is he out of fuel? Gunses slowing down. The Latvian might be out of fuel. He's just exited the last turn. He's gonna get passed by Mr. Grinder and not James. Mr. Grinder passed not James in the end. And Gunses, there's more drama. He's trying to crawl. He's been passed left, right, and center. 2 more cars. G1 is exiting the final turn. There he goes past, and the last car to cross is gonna be Photon. He's gonna be going past right now. There is car of Gunses on the inside. He passes, and Gunses is now dead last. Is he able to crawl his way to the finish line? Now I think his car, he's still moving. but very, very slowly, has about, well, 100 meters till the end. Let's see if anybody just comes to his aid. Looking, there are 2 more cars continuing. There's Gemini and Not James still continuing on the track. We'll see if anybody comes to help the stranded Latvian who's yet to cross the line. He's stuck on the grid. Let's swap to look at who are we looking at? We have to look at Gemini right here, who finished second. He's still going around the track. It's a very, very long lap. His car is damaged as well. Probably a collision after the finish line, because I didn't see him involved in any kind of shenanigans during the race. You see, oh no, he's going back to pits. He's not having any of it. Gemini is done. Gemini is not interested in helping anyone. The other car is Not James, who also going to pits. So, everybody just ignored Guntzes, and he is not gonna finish the race. He's gonna be classified a lap down after running out of fuel and receiving 0 help. Well, so much for camaraderie between teams. The rivalries are gonna start early this year, it seems like, as we are done with the sprint race. Alrighty then. Interesting. The Latvian is not crossed the line. He has to retire. And that is it for the first race. Hang tight, as we will back for race 2 after these messages.
Does it improve the lives of people? That's the true measure of any technology or any new investment. And you hope to God that basic core human element is never lost, no matter how technologically advanced we get as people. So the human case has always been strong for what direct relief does. People who are poor or stuck in these terrible circumstances need help. That basic idea to listen, not impose, to be respectful and not arrogant is still as valid as it was in 1948. Principles really don't change, and I think direct relief, fortunately, started with good ones of being open-minded, kind of big-hearted with respect to people's needs, and hard-headed when it comes to other people's money. When you look back and think direct relief has played a significant role in many of the signature humanitarian events over the past 70 years, the combination of those characteristics has served the organization well, and they're sort of timeless. You're surrounded by inspiration if you see it. I think anytime, if you've never done something, or you've done something at one scale, it's scary to think how you can do it at 10 times the scale. But at the end of the basic decision was pretty easy. Why would we not do this when the signals were all pointing in the right direction? The dedication of the building is really a rededication to the cause, to the idea, and a commemoration to the people whose generosity made it possible. What it represents is a much greater capability to help more people with tools that we have embedded in it, with the experience of 70 years. To bring those together in this building so we can do more in the same efficient way we've always tried to do it is really exciting. And we are sobered by the challenge, but deeply thankful for the opportunity to keep doing what Direct Leaf has been doing for the past 70 years.
I remember that guy, he's a bit of an idiot. He stopped. Somehow we was like, fuck you. I'm not turning. I hit the wall, but I hit one of the bones because I lost. Heavy damage. Don't try to kill yourself. GT3, get a GT3. He's fucking idiots. At least I think something bad happened to somebody in front of us. Welcome to Daytona. Checker flag. Fantastic job, everyone.
Drive me down to the pine trees, looking for lost hopes and dreams. I feel you breathing in your heart. These concrete skies, these city lights. It was you and I. These concrete skies, these city lights. It was you and I. These concrete skies, these city lights. It was you and I. These concrete skies, these city lights. It was you and I. Don't say goodbye. Don't ever leave your hand in mine. Home is you and me.
Hi, I'm Norman Mitchell, standing here in front of PWC Wellness Center in Houston, Texas.
Mid-County area is where we're going. Port Arthur, Nederland, Port Neches.
We're in Canovanas, the shelter here in Puerto Rico.
We're here at Jardín Pushkin in Colonia Roma.
The hallmark of disasters is you have to do what you do, you just have to do more of it faster. 2017 has seen more large-scale emergencies in sequence than ever before in direct relief 70-year history. The people who know the most, have the most at stake, are going to do the best job with the resources they have are the ones who live there.
Just received a large shipment of critical medicine from Direct Relief.
Some gauze, some bandages for people that are managing the response and rescue efforts.
You're standing strong, united with every other organization providing primary care and critical access to those individuals who have been most impacted.
Well, hello and welcome back to Phoenix Racing Club, and we are waiting for the start of race 2 of the pre-season test here at Highlands Motorsports Park. Have had a lovely view from McLaren team, who is starting this race on pole. Alongside him is Gem Knight. Let's see if Gem can do anything. We're missing one driver. Viperian is not gonna take part in the second race. Everybody else is here and waiting to go. We do have the lights on, and we are gonna go in just a matter of seconds. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and even 6 lights are on. And away we go, 11 cars revving all the way to the first chicane. It's gonna be tight once again. Side by side, looks like Gem is trying to go. There's a bit of a touch between the leaders. Somebody, that's Mr. Grinder, decides to go to straight line the chicane. McLaren team is in the lead from Gem Knight. Gem Knight is trying to defend his second place, and he does so. Ford and Burst side by side. We're almost going 3 wide. SBD is looking, oh, he tags now James. Now James misses the turn. He continues and he tags SBD back. Ford and Burst says, thank you very much, I'm coming through. Trying to get inside of not James. Then now side by side for P4. Still touching, still racing. Here's on board. Ford and Burst has to yield for now. The only loser from that is SBD, who lost the position from that. Still side by side. Ford manages to sneak his nose inside. There is another punt from Gunses on SBD back there. We do have a little bit of a bottleneck in the end. That's Sue Baxter, Mr. Grinder, and G-Man all together fighting for the last positions. G-Man sneaks by Mr. Grinder with a creative line that loses him a little bit of space. So Grinder tries to go around the outside, but he doesn't have any space. That's not James in the gravel, loses out, and back he goes in the running order. Sue goes up into 7th place, followed by Baxi. Ford and Burst, with all of that, is now up in 3rd. Not James in the pit lane. Damage on his car, but he is allowed to take mandatory stop at this very time if his tires survive the rest of the race. So it's not completely done for him. It's just an early stop, which is suboptimal but not race ending. We continue looking at the battle for 7th place between Sue Baxi, G-Man and Mr. Grinder, all together here, bunched up. It's not the easiest trick to make a pass. It's very, very flowing, and in cars fast as these ones, it's difficult to find a place to safely dive down, and not many people are willing to just go hard that early in the race. But Grinder does try it on the inside now, making me eat my words, and completes the pass on G-Man for 9th place. German is through, and the next target is the Hungarian Baxi. Meanwhile, further up the field we have SBD, Gunses and Waffles. This trio is fighting for P4. Both McLaren team, Gem Knight and Ford, yellow flag. Somewhere further down, that's G-Man. We see the damage. Something happened down there. He was racing Mr. Grinder. I don't know if there was contact or he just lost him by himself, but it's in the last couple of corners. And he now has damage on his car. Mr. Grinder and Baxter, meanwhile, very close together. We do have a race. Oh, that is Waffles, I believe, off. And that's Waffles into the barrier. Heavy damage on the car of the Swede. We caught him completely missing the turn. and he did not manage to stop the car in time and plowed through the barrier. With that in mind, Gunses goes through past SBD and up into 4th position. Fordenbrust holding station with his teammate, but catching Gemnite in the process. So that's probably the closest battle in a couple of laps. Let's see if SBD manages to catch back up. Sorry, I completely forgot about this one. Mr. Grinder is still hunting down Baxi for P7. It's a bit of a longer pit stop here, remember, than usually, because the pit road, the pit entry goes outside the track, so you lose a little bit of time on entry as well. Fordenbrust and McLaren team both fastest lap, but Tim wins about a 10th. Not much, but over the course of 30 laps, those 10ths stack up, and they stack up against Photon in this situation. Mr. Grinder still chasing. We go on board with the German number 20 machine, who's trying to get past his rival here. He is looking, he's chasing, he has to pause. There is G-Man in pits right now. He was the car that stopped on track, I believe, so he might have taken the tow back to pits. I'm not quite sure if it's indeed the case, but he is now in the pits for quite a while. We'll have to follow up on that. Not quite sure what happened there. Tire in turn 1 chicane, and that's engine damage. That's engine damage on car number 19 that's now in the pits, and safe to say the race is over for him. That is pretty much it. You don't change engine and still live to tell the tale. Meanwhile, Gemnite and Photon gonna engage in a battle soon, but meanwhile, we do have this whole train. SBD, Gunses, Soup, Mr. Grinder and Baxi. These 5 cars you see now on your screens, all engaging in fight for 4th. Meanwhile, McLaren team is being caught by Gemnite and Photon. Not the best of laps for the race leader, as both his rivals close the gap a little bit. Side by side between SBD and Gunses right now. Gunses is trying to get past, utilizing creative lines, which is sort of on brand for the Latvian. He's not gonna yield. He left the track to get side by side, and he's still staying side by side and still not yielding, and he might actually get the position out of this, and he does. Gunses is through with a little bit of a mistake from SBD, who's now under fire from Soup and loses the track position to Soup as well. I'm sure... Oh, Mr. Grinder goes off the track. Meanwhile, SBD tries a crossover. Baxi goes past Mr. Grinder, who was struggling a little bit as well. Yellow flag in sector 9. We're looking at Waffles, I believe, very slow. But we have to go back here. Mr. Grinder loses out. But up in front, there's still battle between SBD and Soup here. There is a little bit of a teammate sandwich between cars 74 and 68, with the Finn in the middle, who locks up hard and misses the turn and loses a couple of positions. There is a scratch mark. But what I was about to say before this whole chaos ensued is that the race control might have a peek at Gunses' creative definition of track limits, because that was naughty. Soup and Waffles both on pit lane right now. They will take their mandatory tire stop and use that time to try to repair some damage. They're both off. No, Waffles is still in the pits. Now Waffles taking a while to repair his damage. Soup is back on track. So Soup is not very much affected by this mishap. Waffles is gonna lose a little bit of time. Meanwhile, back on track, Foden lost a bunch of time. I completely missed that. He's now 14 seconds back. He did not take his stop yet. So somewhere along the lines, he did miss a heap of time, about 10 seconds, to Gem Knight. Which is a big trouble for the Dutchman. He seems to be on pace with his teammate, but he lacks that consistency of his teammate, who now sets yet another fastest lap of 132.112. While Foden sets 133, so it was on a previous lap, I believe. Waffles is now 1 lap down, but he's out of the pit lane, so he had to take plenty of repairs, but he is now back. And there is Photon right behind Waffles, who has to let him through with the blue flags. He does so very quickly. Meanwhile, the battle's still as hot as the rest of the race. There is Baxi and Mr. Grinder with Baxi's teammate right ahead of him. So might have a little bit of team tactics if they help each other with the toe to try and get a little bit of a gap from Mr. Grinder. That's not what's happening right now, as Baxi goes a little bit wide. Race control with the message that Photon Burst had a spin after the breach, which made him lose time. A little bit of a lockup from SBD, who's now, well, speaking of team tactics, involuntarily he's now providing the toe to his teammate after a mistake. Now they just have to not trip over each other and just give Grinder a couple of positions. 35-2 for McLaren team against 35-7 for Gem Knight. Gem Knight is now 3 seconds back. It's not a lot. Remember that after a stop you have cold tires and anything can happen. We've seen gaps like this disappear over a pit stop window. We're a quarter of the way through the longer race. There is Mr. Grinder looking for a pass on the inside, a little bit wiggly for Baxi, who's now losing out. Let's see if Mr. Grinder goes for 2 teammates for the price of 1. He's looking for the inside, still looking for the inside. Gonna get it, but it's not the preferred line into the next turn. He has to close the door, and he does so just barely. And he goes past both teammates in the BMW in a couple of turns. That's brilliant performance for the German. And now there is a teammate battle behind him. That's gonna make for a great team photo, but not the greatest of team debriefs, as they're now losing time trying to fight each other. It might be beneficial for one of them to just get into the pits, because now they're trading positions once again with the dive from Baxi and losing time to everybody else. They need to sort this out or they're gonna lose out big time. G-Man's still in the pits. The man is gonna lose a lot of time from this. 132.9 for Gem Knight. He lost another half a second to the... sorry, not half a second, but... no, he didn't lose anything. Never mind, the timing app is lying to me. As he's... they're basically holding station with McLaren Tim. Foden is about the same place. He's not catching up to Gem Knight, which is what he should be doing right now to have a chance of a fight for the lead later in the race. This is the hottest battle. Oh, whoa, whoa! There is Mr. Grinder hard into the wall. He caught the tire bundle and it spun him out hard, and he has to take the tow. The car might be seriously damaged after that. That's a hard crash in turn 1, which already claimed the life of G-Man, I think. There is a teammate battle continuing as Baxi gets past SBD. The tire bundle claims another one, as we have now what looks like 8 cars on the lead lap after that hard crash. and the Audi flying into the wall. So it looks like it's a member of each of Phoenix Racing teams now stuck on the pits with their pit crew hammering away at their damage. With Viperion not present for the second race, out of 4 drivers for Phoenix Racing team, only Gunzes is still racing at this point. In 4th place, trying to catch up to Photon Burst with varying degrees of success. Waffle's been 1 lap down, now goes past 2 stranded Audis. So looks like this teammate battle is the only entertainment we have on track right now. Soup and Not James kinda behind, but remember that they both took the pit stop already, so everybody ahead of them is still on their first stint as we are 15 minutes into the race. Let's see if early pit stops to mitigate the damage is gonna help them. Meanwhile, we do have good news, everyone. G-Man, a member of PRTT Black, is back on track. He is listed as 6 laps down, but looks like they made his engine work and he is back on track. Personal best for Gemini at 132.4, who's trying to claw his way back into the fight for the lead. Mr. Grind is still in the pit, so G-Man is now fighting against the stationary car to get ahead of him before Grinder is back on track. We're going on board with our 2nd place car of Gemini, JJ Motorsports with Total Downforce Racing. He has the leader in sight. There is the Timberwolves racing over there. Still visible, but oh so far away. SBD and Bax is still close to each other. Mr. Grinder is now officially listed as retired. The car cannot be resuscitated, which means he is probably gonna be dead last, and we're having some action between 2 teammates. Baxi made a mistake, but SBD had a huge butt wiggle on exit, but still made his way through. And both teammates still behind each other and trading positions. The M-Power team having a bit of a team practice, it looks like. Gemini lost a bit of time on the previous lap and now 4.5 seconds back from a leader. That's not gonna help him at all. We're gonna switch to our race leader. Here is McLaren Tim. Looks like he is just entering the 2nd sector. And we're gonna go on board with the engine sounds. Enjoy. This is some brilliant German machinery we're witnessing, and some brilliant driving from our leader, who's still generating a gap from P2. We can see on our screens right now almost 5-second gap between the first and second place, as Boxy is the first of Team Empower that decides to jump into the pits. His teammate is not there, but they were close to each other on the track, so we're gonna wait and see how that pans out. In and out. Let's see where he is in relation to Soup, who was in pits earlier. He's exiting the pits, and Soup right now exiting the final turn, so we have a gap of about 7 seconds, but there's cold tires and murderous tire bundles. We'll see how they manage to navigate that. Meanwhile, Photon is still in third place, and he's also losing time to McLaren team. Still a 9-second gap between him and Gemnite. Looks like they're holding station right now. With Gunses being 12 seconds back from them, there is the Latvian, and the car behind him is Waffles, who's still a lap back. That's not a battle on track, but Waffles would definitely enjoy free DRS. DRS is available for everybody within 3 seconds of a car ahead. It is a physical gap, not the standings gap, so Waffles will have DRS available being within 3 seconds from Gunses. And now there is the interesting part. SBD from Empower, number 74, is in the pits. He was just a couple of tenths ahead of his teammate before his teammate stopped in pits. Now let's see if he manages to rejoin ahead. We're gonna go on board with Baxi. He might see a black and yellow car on his left. There it is. Rejoins ahead, but on cold tires. And now the chase is on. Baxi will have about a lap to close down and pass. You see the struggle in this never-ending right-hand turn. Turn 3. It's very difficult to do on the cold tires. And now we're gonna have a race between teammates once again. If Baxi wants through, the easy chance is gonna be right about now. McLaren team is pitting from the lead. We're gonna switch to that in a moment. But now we do have a teammate battle on our hands. Photonburst goes past. But obviously that's not gonna matter. McLaren team is rejoining in a little bit of fresh air between Photon and Gunses. That's gonna be good news for him. Baxi drives down the inside of a hairpin, gets past his teammate. But let's see if the tires warmed up or not. SBD is gonna look for a crossover move into the next turn. Side by side, not quite. Baxi is back ahead. That white car behind them is Soup, and that's for position. He would like these two to continue battling so he can close the gap. He already made his mandatory stop for tires, along with some damage fixing, so he will be in this battle in just a moment. Baxi generated a little bit of a gap from his teammate. It's obviously gonna close down because I believe his teammate should have DRS wide open on the straights. And there it is, the green button on the bottom right of the driver's dashboard. They have 3 uses per lap. When it lights up with when the DRS button lights up green, that means that the flap is open and DRS is available. And with that, there is a touch between them, and we do have 2 drivers in the pits. Gemnite and Photonburst both go on pit lane. Let's see where they rejoin. Gemnite rejoins behind Gunses, so he's gonna have DRS, and there is Photonburst. He's gonna get in front of Waffles, I believe. Waffles is gonna try to get past him because of cold tires on Fonon's car. It might not be the best thing for Fonon right now, who has to make a pass later, but Fonon will be able to use a little bit of DRS help on cold tires. Gem is now more than just within 3 seconds of Gunses. If he stays there until Gunses pits, he can use the benefits of DRS, trying to close the gap to McLaren team, but the gap is now 8 seconds. That's a huge gap. Oh, never mind. The Latvian decided that DRS should not be available and just gets into the gravel, missing his turn. He's still ahead though. I would expect Gem to make the pass, but no, he just closed the gap. And now it's a battle on track. However, Gunses has not stopped yet. I believe so. He'll have to stop again. I think. And there he goes. Adds Gunses onto the pit lane. Gem goes through. And he will not have the DRS help, as detection is happening right now. Meanwhile, SBD lost a couple of seconds to his teammate and a few more behind for Soup. So that's not boding well for our on-track battles. Fonon made his way past Waffles again. Guns is having a bit of an adventure on pit lane, as we saw him rocking back and forth, trying to get off the line. He is rejoining a little bit in no man's land. 20 seconds to Fonon in P3 and looks like almost 20 seconds to Baxi in P5. So plenty of road in between all of them. And as I said that, SBD actually closing the gap to his teammate, their trade mistakes, thus keeping closer to each other. We go on board with SBD, number 74, who is hunting down his teammate once again. These two have provided thorough entertainment for us in the booth here all race long. Meanwhile, McLaren team casually sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:31.581, just casually gaining a second on Gemini. The champion is flexing on everybody as we speak. Still less than a second between two teammates. SBD has to brake hard. We heard the tires cool. Oh, his teammate Baxi goes wide and basically opens up the opportunity for him. We had an issue in Sector 4. I'm trying to locate the culprit. I do not see anything serious. Maybe there was a minor mistake from somebody, but everybody is still going. Maybe it was for the car of Baxi off the track, but I don't think it was. In any case, whatever it was minor. I don't think we had any big changes. Not James is catching up to Soup there, less than 2 seconds between those two, so the battle might be heating up. Gemini is now 10 seconds back, Fonon 23 behind, Gunses 45 back, everybody else is a minute behind. And we might have a couple of lapped cars by the end of the race, if that continues. McLaren Tim making a statement before season even begins, just running away with it, and showing exactly why he is the reigning champion. Alright, a message from race control that Waffles had to avoid Fonon and taking a shortcut before the tunnel, which triggered the yellow flag that we saw on stream. No major implications. Waffles is a lap down, so he's just exploring alternative routes around the track in his free time in case he has to race here again at some point. Meanwhile, we should switch to this battle, as Not James just caught Soup, and we have a battle for 7th place in our hand, almost a second shaved off by driver of 73 car right here, very close to tire bundles. Monterey Simsport BMW here. Lots of adventures and mishaps for Not James early in the race. Oh, that's almost right into the back of Soup as he was sending the car down the inside. He is now right behind him. He used DRS in this lap, so he has a couple more applications. He uses one of them right now. We can see that that little icon lighten up. Jimmy meanwhile goes another lap down. He's now officially 7 laps down. He's gonna struggle to be classified in this race, but gotta say, he's still battling for it. Still battling. Speaking of battles, we still have a couple on our hands. Baxi and SBD still in it. The teammate battle, and Soup and Not James, the 4 BMWs from 5th to 8th, having a bit of a race for themselves. The first 4 spots, unless something crazy happens, are pretty sad, if I say so myself. Not James very aggressive in the first chicane, turns 1 and 2, trying to keep up with Soup. He managed to close the gap a lot, but closing the gap is one thing, but passing is completely different. The challenge of dirty air is very prominent on this track, with a lot of sweeping turns. As soon as you get close, it gets very... Oh, there might have been a little bit of a punt. There's a little bit of lag involved. Not James stays behind. He still has 8 minutes plus 1 lap to make a pass happen. He does not exactly have to force the move just yet, but the time might be coming sooner rather than later. But yeah, with a lot of sweeping turns, dirty air is a challenge as the car just starts to understeer a lot, and as you slow down, having to wait for the grip to appear on your front axle, you just lose time. Oh, there's a big crash between Not James and Soup. Soup lost control, and on the exit just sideswiped Not James. Soup is ahead, but I believe he's gonna either redress or he might have damage. We'll see if Soup is back on pace after that. It looks like he is, so he is redressing that issue. That crash was on him. Both cars now have damage, so we'll see how that pans out. But we finally managed to catch one on camera. Don't shout at me for being completely useless. Speaking of action on camera... Oh, speaking of action on camera, there's the touch between teammates, and this time it's not harmless. As SBD loses out, goes onto the grass and loses about 3 seconds to his teammate as they went side by side once again. I should start selling tickets to the debrief in M Sport Racing Team, cause that's gonna be spicy. If that's how the season is gonna go, we have all kinds of flags in Sector 5 and Sector 2 now. That's Gunz is off the track and into the wall. Speaking of cars, Oh! And he is towing. I wonder if chicane was involved again. He is towing completely. He was facing the wall, and that's P4 gone. The PRT curse is in full swing, as no PRT car made it without severe damage. That's one way to start the season, as the team manager will need some stern words for his drivers, as all three of them managed to find some sort of a wall to hit, and looks like none of them are gonna finish on the lead lap. Well, that means Baxi from M Sport is gonna inherit P4, and now this is the battle that's gonna ensue. Gemini, meanwhile, with 1:37 lap time, and he's fallen back massively, just 4 seconds between him and Photon with 5 minutes to go. So Photon might be fighting for P2 right here. Super's now going a lap down, so we have 6 cars on the lead lap, and we do have a teammate battle still on our hands. Team manager Psychedelics is gonna be challenging his inner Günther Steiner in a moment, after this race is completed. Gonna say this is some hilarious material for the broadcast booth, that's for sure. Viperian decided to not show up, and G-Man, Mr. Grinder, and Gunses all hit something. I believe all three of them might have hit the tire bundle in the chicane. Gunses might have hit it later, so he made it an extra turn, but not much longer. We'll see if he manages to get back on track before the checkered flag. I'm not sure about that. Not James is now going a lap down. We have 5 cars on the lead lap. Next target for McLaren Tim is this duo, 10 seconds up the road. The leader is taking no prisoners right now. Baxi is loving this outside line, that's giving him a better exit, but he's losing on entry. So we'll see if that battle continues heating up. Meanwhile, Photon Burst in 3rd place. The gap is now 3.8 seconds to Gemini, but the time is running out. He will need a mistake from Gem to be able to catch up, get in the DRS range, and try to make a move happen. Meanwhile, we're still looking at the battle between M Power Racing, number 74, chasing number 60. Oh! That's a hit! And he is off! Hello, broadcast curse in full swing, just tags the outside wall as he exits the bridge, and that's heavy damage for car 74. Let's see if he pits. No, he continues. Just has to complete a couple of laps. You see this, the steering is now crooked, so that's a lot of handling damage. He will be under fire from a leader. He must not take him out, preferably, and looks like the P4 is settled then. Another fun debrief gonna happen. Looks like 2 teams already having a fun time in their garage post-race. Don't think there's gonna be any serious debrief between our McLaren team and Photon Burst, because they haven't seen each other this whole race. Guns is still in the pits. We're still monitoring this situation. Now there is a battle if G-Man is able to close down the 6-lap gap he had to Gunses before time expires. I was not exactly looking what was going on. The gap is, let's see, still 3.7 between Gemini and Photon. And there is our race leader, just sweeps on the outside. SBD just gets the fuck out of the way, basically. As McLaren team goes by, and that makes it 4 cars on the lead lap here. Photon Burst just made his way past G-Man. He's now 3.1 seconds back, 3 seconds back, with basically 2 laps to go for them as they gonna cross the line. I'm looking at the track map right here, trying to figure out who is where at this point. I don't think we have any particularly close battles. This is as close as it gets. 3-second gap between Gemini and Photon Burst. We're gonna go on board with Photon Burst, who is probably having a little bit of vision issues with cracked windshield. Looks like Gunsis might be done for the race. Looks like he's not coming back out. I'm suggesting to test my streamer and broadcaster curse on our race leader as we go on board with McLaren team as the timer expires. He is now a couple of turns away from the end of the lap as we're gonna spectate our leader for now. Oh, something happened with Gemini. Gem is slow and Photon Burst goes past him and he's still slow. Trying to listen to his car. G-Man goes through. Is he out of fuel? He might be short on fuel. He's basically coasting. He's out. Gemini is out. And he's not gonna finish. He needs one more lap. And he's not gonna coast. He's way too far to coast back. And... oh, no. He still has power in his car, but he might be marginal. Let's see if he makes it, if he's saving that hard. He must be trying to get it to the line. G-Man is stuck on the bridge. We see him straight ahead. Please do not crash into each other, boys. Thank you. That's G-Man facing the wall. Gemini is fuel saving hard. 15 seconds down on Photon. But he has about a 40-second gap on Baxi right now. He is not going into the pits. He's trying his odds on one more lap. He's gonna just coast for one more lap, trying to get across the line without pit stop. Let's see if he's able to keep his third place. Everything is happening in this race. The leader is coasting, but everybody else is facing major issues. He has to coast through this. DRS wide open. He can have DRS flap open through this whole bend since he's not accelerating. He's just reducing drag. And that was a smart move to let G-Man through before start finish to get access to DRS, which he's able to use for long stretches of road because he's not accelerating much. The gap is closing. It's now 28 seconds. McLaren team crossed the finish line in first place. Gemini is coasting hard, but the gap is gigantic. Let's see. Gemini is trying to accelerate out. He's still fuel saving hard, but we're still unsure if he's gonna finish. Soup is under investigation for mandatory tire change rule as he crossed the finish line, and whilst he pitted he might not have changed his tire compound. That's gonna be interesting post-race investigation. Photon Burst under investigation for mandatory tire change, who finishes second, so he might be losing his podium. Race control trying to interject in this race and say we're not quite done here. The gap is 22 seconds. Right, we have a lot of folks under investigation, so it might just be to cover their bases, but Gemini here is exiting the final turn, and we'll see if he manages to cross the line. Unlike Gunsis, he does, and he keeps his podium. That's another investigation, so looks like it might be automated messages. Having some fun. Gunz is still in pits, and Baxi is the last car to cross the finish line, almost a full lap down on the leader. McLaren team from Photon Burst, from Gemini, from Baxi, from Not James SBD, Soup Waffles, Gunsis, G-Man, and Mr. Grinder, the last three. the last three, let's say not being classified. Goons is 5 laps down, G-Man 7 laps down, Mr. Grinder, DNF, quite a few laps back, and there is our weekend winner basically, McLaren Tim. Absolute domination from him the whole weekend. Well, since we still have a little bit of time on our hands, let's see if he wants to chat to us. Hold on. I said if he wants to chat to us. There we go.
I don't know how much fuel I finished with, but I put in 53.
Oh, hi, Tim.
Oh, hello.
Well, yet another weekend of complete and utter domination. Is that the sign of things to come in this season?
I mean, hopefully, but it's a practice race, so that's what the stakes are. You know, there's no points. It's kind of just, I kind of just came to see where everyone was at. I did end up doing a little bit of practice on accident, so
practice on accident. That sounds.
Yeah, you know, I accidentally made some setup changes that helped. But yeah, I mean, it was a fun track, but a little bit hectic as we're all sorting things out still. So yeah.
It looks like you were the only one who avoided major shenanigans, just cruising ahead. Everybody behind you, I don't know if there was some chatter on the radio, but let me tell you, basically everybody behind you had some sort of an issue, and Forecast finished on a lead lap overall.
Yeah, I think there's something wonky with like the fuel prediction, because like the in-game fuel prediction, like when I set my fuel to that level, my race essentials tells me that it's not enough for the end. So I ended up just like slapping a couple more liters in there. So that saved me from that, but it seems like that's a problem for yeah, that'll definitely be a problem if people don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, so a few weeks before the start of the season, this time we're not starting in Hockenheim, we're going to Zolder first. Do you like the track? How do you reckon your chances are there?
I mean, yeah, Zolder's fun. The track mod itself is a bit weird, like it doesn't match real life, and like some of the parts are harder than they're supposed to be, I think. But it's a track which I've done okay on before, so will be interesting to see where everyone's at, and I'll be giving it my best.
Alright, good luck to you in this season. It's definitely gonna be interesting. Photon is on pace with you,
Right.
though lacking consistency, but hopefully we'll see some great racing, and
Yeah.
well, looking forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, so
Alright, see ya.
yeah, thanks.
And now we're gonna grab the teammate of our reigning champion, Photon. Hello.
Hello.
Well, that was entertaining. That's one word I can use for this weekend.
Yeah, definitely.
So, two different races for you. In the first race, I haven't seen it on my screen, but it looks like you had a bit of a close encounter of a wrong kind with the pit divider wall.
Yeah, so throughout this entire test round, I had a lot of just about second-long freezes of the screen just at random intervals. And so that's why I lost the lead to Tim as well. I cut the track and I was like, well, that was quite a cut, and I gained quite an advantage, so I'll just let him by. And just a few turns later, right before the turning point of the last turn, I got another one of those freezes, which lasted about 1.5 to 2 seconds, and before I knew it, I was in the wall. And yeah, that immediately broke my suspension as well, so I had to pit, and then because the race was so short, I couldn't really make up any places either.
But yeah, it was a difficult race for you, but in the second race, pretty much everybody had issues bar your teammate. And late in the race, we saw Gemini had a massive oops moment. I reckon you were settled for third when you saw him crawling up the track?
Yeah, pretty much. I actually was really surprised at the start that I had. I think I climbed up to 5th already after the first lap, which I was really surprised by. I thought I was definitely going to be stuck in traffic for a while. And then I tried to push to him to maybe try an undercut at the pit stops and maybe try to gain a place on him. But with the freezes that I had about once every 2 laps, I just couldn't get the pace that I needed to beat him because he was actually quite fast. And then yeah, I suddenly saw him falling back a long ways, and I just thought he was making mistakes. For example, the hairpin here is really tricky. You can outbrake yourself quite easily. But at some point, like, he just picked up the pace again and then started falling back to me. And that's when I actually realized that he might have some fuel issues and that he was trying to just save everything that he could. And I think at some moment he realized that the gap wasn't big enough and that I had enough pace to catch up to him. So he just let me go and I guess just tried to make it to the end.
Yeah, he just tried to crawl back. Also, at the end of a race, the race control threw messages at us about potential breach of the mandatory tire change rules. So we gotta ask you, was there a tire change?
I mean, I was completely invested in the race, so I could have missed it, but I'm actually pretty sure that I did switch tires because I looked at the tire up at the end of the race and they were basically all in the green still, which I highly doubt would happen without a tire change. So,
okay,
yeah.
we're gonna have an official word from race control later, but for now, yeah, P2 in the second race, and obviously you're very close in qualifying to your teammates, so shall we expect the, well, first of all, the 1-2 from Timberwolves, and second of all, the battle for the championship from you?
Well, expecting is always a large term to use because I really look at it round to round, which is a huge cliche, but that's just how it goes, really. But yeah, I heard that we did about the same amount of practice, so it looks like we're going to be quite close, and at least we were on this track. So I'm just going to give it my all and see if I can get close to him.
And I already asked your teammate, gotta ask you, how do you feel about Zolder? Confident?
Yes, but I will need to work on track limits because especially the chicanes there, like here it was quite tight as well, but especially in the chicanes at Zolder and the last turn are really hard to get right without going off track. So that'll take some effort to get that right. But last season that was a track that actually really suited me. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Alright, good luck to you, good luck to your team in the championship, and hopefully it's gonna be a very entertaining second season of Phoenix World Championship.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thanks.
Alright, and thank you very much to everybody that tuned into the broadcast. At the top you can see we are still using Phoenix World Championship to raise money for our wonderful charity campaigns. Thank you for everybody who donated so far, and we will be running it throughout the season. So if you want to add to the cause, the link is either in the Discord channel of Phoenix Racing Club, or if you're watching on Twitch, it is supposed to be under the stream. In any case, thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you in a few weeks for the first race of the season in Belgium at Zolder. Until then, my name is Lebabansky, and this is goodbye.